Have you heard about Scipio AI? Have you heard about the Marketing Podcast Network? Well, I sit down with Jason Falls and get the dirty details on a tool that's going to help make your business better. Stay tuned for this week's episode of Copy Arena, the podcast. Jason Falls, what the fuck is up? Who the fuck are you, and why the fuck do people want to hear from you today?
Well, I would hope they want to hear from me because I know a thing or two.
About Winfluence.
Some people would argue I don't, but primarily I spend my days focused on influence marketing. Obviously, I run the Winfluence, the Influence Marketing Podcast, and I've written a book called Winfluence, Reframing Influence Marketing, Influencer Marketing to Ignite Your Brand. And primarily I have a very different take on influencer marketing with the R. My take is without the R because I want brands to focus on a broader strategic purpose, finding people who actually influence their audiences to take action for your brand or to try or buy or consume your product, rather than finding social media people with lots of followers who can, hold your product and say, look how awesome I am with this product. Which is kind of the way that influencer marketing is done these days. So I look at it a little bit more broadly and focus on, finding people who are actually influential. So that's what I generally talk about.
Awesome. And so there's a very subtle difference that I wonder if everybody caught, is like the difference between holding the product and actually holding influence.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny. The mainstream media has kind of backed everyone into a corner on the term influencer. Every time what they talk about influencer marketing in the mainstream media, they're talking about the bad things, people who airbrush clouds into their pictures or out of their pictures, and people who buy fake followers and all that kind of stuff. There's even an HBO documentary called Fake Famous by a responsible seasoned journalist, surprisingly enough, Nick Bilton, who found three people with like 1,000 followers on Instagram and basically offered to buy them fake followers and fake engagement to see if he could make them fake famous. I think it's very telling that 2 out of the 3 about halfway into the film were like, nah, this is not me. I'm not doing this. But the third one kind of, followed through the experiment and ended up with a couple 100,000 followers, and brands were paying her to go on, press trips and things like that, giving her products, paying her to do content. And so he proved the point that you can create a fake influencer that really has no influence. But I think he also, without realizing it, proved the point that most people who are content creators out there are going to look at that and go, ew, that's not cool. Yeah. And so I think what that film and what the mainstream media tend to overlook is the fact that the world of influencers, if you will, is actually mostly full of people who create really good content, are really engaged with their audience, and do have a measure of influence. The trick for a brand is finding the ones who have the right influence over the audience you're trying to reach, and partnering with them to collaborate on content and whatnot so that you can accomplish your brand and your business goals through them. And so that's where I try to come in and help people figure that out.
That's what I was getting ready to ask you. Is that what you're working on now with your partnership? What is it? Yes. Falls and Partners?
Well, Falls and Partners. So a couple of things happened very quickly in the fall of 2022. I left an agency called Cornet that I'd worked at for about 5 years doing influencer strategy and influencer marketing stuff, and kind of branched out to do more, consulting with other people and other agencies and brands with Falls and Partners. In the midst of that, however, I had done a content partnership and collaboration with a company called Scipio.ai, and they have a different take on influencer marketing software. In fact, the software platform that they presented to me that I reviewed and shared with my audience is their community influence marketing platform. And it's really focused very differently than other influence marketing softwares. Instead of looking outward to social media influencers and trying to find people who have big audiences, it actually takes a brand's community, maps your customers, maps your employees, maps your affinity brands, the people who follow you online, the people who talk about you online, maps that community and looks for influential voices within that community. So these are people who already know you, are already buying your product, are already talking about you, are already following you on social media. analyzing that audience and saying, okay, who are the influential voices here? Because that's an inside out perspective. It's let's start with who knows us, who we know, and let's tap into their influence to grow, as opposed to let's go find people who have a lot of followers who have no clue who we are and don't care about us at all.
You're right.
And pay them to manufacture content that persuades their audience. So they had this software package that was really appealing and kind of aligned with my sort of, influence versus influencer marketing. And so we got to talking, and long story short, in November, I became the EVP of marketing for Scipio.ai, and I'm now helping them build not just that software package, but a much larger platform of what we call community commerce marketing applications that basically empower a brand to grow their everything from sales to brand health to awareness to revenue, working through their own community. So map that community and find ways to leverage who you already know and who you're already connected to grow, as opposed to going out and trying to pitch yourself to people who don't know who you are. So it's a new category of software. It's a new category of strategy. And we're trying to build that out for people here in 2023.
And leveraging AI to get it done.
Yeah, there's a lot of AI in there. We do have an application called Community Generative AI. And essentially what it does is it allows a brand to make a more efficient use of their time. And this is, it's going to sound like a rub against copywriting, but hold on, it's not. Calm down, Copy Arena people. So we have a generative AI tool that allows you to go in and say, I want to create social content, captions for my social content based on this product, this event. Here's some facts. Please, create pieces of content. And so using our generative AI technology, we basically analyze, you've got your brand plugged into our platform. You've got your competitors plugged in. You've got affinity brands plugged in. And so we're looking at all of these social profiles and all of this content out there. And we're looking at content based on the subject matters that you talk about, the products and services that you create. And we're not only creating social content that is, that you can literally copy and paste, although we certainly say it doesn't get you 100% of the way there. You still need human eyeballs and human touch on polishing this copy, but it gets you most of the way there in creating captions for your social content on scale. So you can do it faster and you can do a lot more in a shorter amount of time. But more importantly, we're using the artificial intelligence to go out and algorithmically look at the most engaging content with all of those factors, with the content subject matter, the audience, the different people that are plugged in your community. So we're saying, okay, here is generative AI content for this social post, but we've gone and tested that for engagement and made sure that we're presenting you with an option that is optimally engaging for your audience. So it's not just about, creating captions for you. It's about optimizing them for the audience that you're trying to serve them to. Now, again, for the Copy Arena audience, I would say, and we say this to everyone, it'll get you 80 to 90% there. You still need that copywriting finesse, that human being to sit there and look at that and go, okay, tweak this, change this, massage that. And now it's ready. Now it's right. But it helps you scale what you're doing.
Yeah, I tested out Jasper, and I was like, everything that came back was super like generic, and it was on point for the prompts that you put in and stuff. You still have to go that extra mile. And I was like, man, it's easier for me just to come up with my own angles and do the thing rather than to try and, focus on fixing something else. And so, but that's cool that you guys are, so you do the whole social setup for them as well. Is that part of what you do?
Yeah, primarily the way that the Scipio.ai platform works is you come in as a brand and you obviously authenticate your social accounts so that we can see your content and measure appropriately. And then you will plug in, some competitors. You can connect your customer list so that we can, again, map that community. And so from a content perspective, when we're creating content through this particular tool, what we do, it's our CGI tool, Community Generative AI. When we do that, again, we're looking at not just We're not just going out and looking at keyword based content and saying, okay, here's all the content about this particular topic, let's optimize it for that. We're actually looking at content that you create, content that your audience engages with, content that your audience is talking about. So it's really customized and built around optimizing for you, not anyone else. No two brands using our tool, even competitors in the same category, are going to have the same content generated with this tool for them, because they have different competitors, they have different affinities, they have different customer bases, right?
That's
so
very cool.
It's using all that intelligence to just make the content smarter.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And so with this, what is like, who are your ideal clients within that sort of arena?
Sure. So, I mean, anybody can use, the CGI tool. It's a low cost. Like, you get a free trial for, I think, 7 days.
Mhm.
And then it's, I think, $20 a month. So anybody can use it. So it could be
Really?
for content creators, it could be for brands, it could be for agencies, whoever.
That's cool.
And then, so that's a low entry fee. And if anybody wants to check that out, it's scipio.ai/vibe check. That's the old name. We haven't changed that URL yet, but VIBECHECK, vibe check, just like it sounds.
Mhm.
scipio.ai/vibe check. So you can go do a free trial, test it out. If you like it, $20 a month, keep using it. And that's for anybody.
Mhm.
It's one app, but that's one application in a bigger platform offering. The community influence marketing piece, which is kind of the software that I reviewed when I first found out about Scipio,
Mhm.
that is sort of our primary product right now. And that is a software as a service for brands. Our primary target audience, the people that we're really trying to reach, are e-commerce brands, because we are addicted to ROI and making sure that we're proving value.
Yeah.
And so, while there are certainly ways that we can measure offline retail sales and foot traffic and things like that, we like to let's do it as quickly and as simply as possible. Let's plug in the right parameters digitally into your website, feeding back to what we're doing, so that when you invest in community influence marketing, we can tell you, if based on your average order value, based on your average conversion rate on your website, we can actually plug into an ROI calculator, which you can use on our website. It's about halfway down the page, and say, hey, if I engage 25 influencers and I pay them each $100, my average order value is this, my average second order value is that, my average conversion rate is this. We'll tell you exactly what kind of ROI you can expect from that campaign. And then you can say, okay, well, that's not enough. Well, let's either pay the creators less, or let's choose more creators, or let's improve our conversion rate. And then you can see how the numbers pan out. But we really like working with e-commerce brands, because we want to prove to every client we work with that there is return on investment in influence marketing. We just feel like it's a better return, and a more effective return if you're focused inward, looking out from a community standpoint, as opposed to going out and finding some celebrity or mega influencer to post about your stuff.
And not get anything, because all they did was hold the picture and no influence.
Exactly. Now, I will say there are some options out there. There's some creators out there that have large audiences that are very good at converting
Mhm.
their audiences to customers. So I would never say never do that. I would simply say it's harder to do that, and way more expensive to do that
Yeah.
than it is looking at the people you already know. It's amazing when I take a client that I'm working with and I plug them into our tool, and it maps their community, the people who are following them, the people who are their customers, their employees, et cetera, their affinity brands, things like that. It's amazing how many mega influencers are on the list already, because they happen to be your customers. You just didn't know it, because you've never
Oh.
mapped that before. So it's interesting to find that. And those people are much more predisposed to say, yeah, I'd love to do a collaboration with you. And they're much more predisposed to do it cheaper, because they already use your product.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And is there not a movie called Scipio?
I don't know if there is. I think that you might be calling them. There's one called Serpico.
Maybe
That's
that's
an
what I'm
old
thinking of.
you might be thinking that's an old
Yeah.
Al Pacino movie.
That's what I was gonna, when I saw Scipio, I was like, that is a strange name. Like, how am I gonna remember that? And as
You
a
know,
copywriter, that's what I'm looking for, stuff to remember. So it was like, wait, is that a movie? Maybe I can
yeah,
remember it like that.
I have heard the origin story of Scipio, the company, obviously, that I work for now. I've heard
Mhm.
that a few times, and I can't remember the exact reason that name came about. But it has something to do with, like, it was an acronym of sorts. It was like community influence platform or something like that.
Gotcha.
I'll dig that up at some point and commit that to memory. But yeah, I don't think it necessarily is tied to anything else.
That there is a purpose behind it, though. There's a thing there.
There was, cool. There originally was. I don't think it means the same thing now, I don't think the original meaning is held true, because the way the company kind of evolved and shifted over the last couple of years has put it on a slightly different path than it originally started with. But it was an acronym of sorts.
Gotcha. Now, you are a prolific writer, and you had started a book, a fiction novel. Did you ever finish that?
No, I never finished it. I've started and worked on a fiction book probably 3 or 4 times in my life. It started out as a series of blog posts that were just silly blog posts that I used to post back on like MySpace blogs a long time ago. And I worked the story. I kind of massaged and worked the characters into a story and started writing it and stopped writing it, started writing, stopped writing it. So that project is one of those like passion projects that I'll get to eventually. That's like a retirement kind of thing. And then I've also actually started the research work on a true crime podcast that I'm really excited about, but I'm waiting on a bunch of research to be done. And it's going to be probably a good while before I can get through it, because it involves researching FBI files and the backlog for the FBI actually providing the public records request is like 5 years.
Holy cow.
So, yeah, they're not real quick on digging up their archives for you. So I'm still waiting to get a hold of that information.
Your book is not their priority. I don't get that.
No, they don't care about me.
And speaking of passion projects, is that one of the reasons you started Marketing Podcast Network?
Absolutely. So the way that MPN came about, and thank you for being a part of it. I'm glad the Copy Arena audience is a Marketing Podcast Network audience.
Thank you for having us.
But the way that came about was I had Winfluence, my influence marketing podcast, on another network, and they promised me ad revenue share and to cross promote my show on their other shows, and I never saw either one of them. So me being, kind of cantankerous, contrarian kind of SOB, decided, screw that, I'm gonna go do it myself. And I just did the research one weekend and figured out that I could actually start my own podcast network for not a big investment. And I knew people like you who had great podcasts and great ideas for podcasts. And I called a few friends and said, hey, what if I provided you with free hosting, guaranteed you that you'd be promoted on other shows like yours, and also shared ad revenue with you equally amongst all the participants? And, a handful of people, including you, were like, hell yeah, I'm in. And so we started with, I think, 6 shows about a year ago, and we're now up to 42.
Holy cow.
And we keep growing. And so I've been watching the counter. We're recording this close to the end of the year. And I've been watching the counter. We're almost to 200 downloads in our first calendar year of existence.
Nice.
In aggregate, all of us together, which is not a lot when you look at the Joe Rogans of the world, but for a bunch of little small marketing niche podcasts, that's a pretty good number. And it's a number of downloads that you can turn around and sell to advertisers, which is the important part of what we're doing in terms of revenue. And so I'm excited. We are, as of this moment, as we're recording this, we are 311 downloads away from 200 grand for the year. So
nice. That is awesome. I'm very honored to be a part of this project, and I'm totally surprised that you've let me stay on and play, because I have to tell you, my editorial calendar has not been up to snuff lately, but we are getting back on track, and season 3 going into 2023 with plans. And I even have, see my blue snowball that you got me.
Yeah. Got the big bad microphone.
Proof, died. So I had to replace it. And I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to actually get my ass in gear and prioritize getting back in the calendar. But I do want to say, like, I'm really glad that you decided to jump on with me today, because you are definitely a character in my in my history that is more than a barrel of laughs. And I appreciate that we've got to be on here like we used to do with 100
Yeah.
proof.
Yeah.
And
That
I
was
still hold on to that page. I'm like, I'm going to do that one day. I'm really
that,
going to bring it back.
yeah, that was
But
fun. We should light that up again just for shits and giggles. Just do a
we
monthly
should.
show.
Yeah,
We
we could
and
do
for
that.
those people out there listening who don't know, which you probably do because Tanya's talked about it before, we actually co-hosted a show called 100 Proof, the Badass Radio Show, a few years ago, and it was really I just wanted to test the waters and see if I could do a podcast because I'm an old radio guy, and I knew I could be behind the microphone. I knew I
Yep.
could edit. I knew I could produce things, but I hadn't really explored the podcast world at that point. And so that show was kind of the foundation that led me to something called the Jason Falls Show, which it was called something before that. I don't even remember the name of it before that. There was a live stream that I turned into a podcast, and then that became Winfluence. And then Winfluence obviously led me to start the Marketing Podcast Network. So all of this is kind of rooted in that one show with you. So
that is so wild. I had no idea. I just thought it was just a shits and giggles thing. And
we were having fun, but at the same time, it was like, man, I could do this. And so doing that show gave me the confidence to be able to actually dig in and launch a show that I really wanted to about marketing that I really wanted to put more oomph behind. Yeah. So yeah, we should dig that up at some point. I think we should. I know where we can host it. That'd be fine.
I know, right? Oh, we could do it if we could put it on Marketing Podcast Network. That would be awesome.
Oh yeah, we could definitely do that. And we could figure that out. That'd be fun.
You have another podcast coming out, don't you?
I do. We're building one at Scipio to kind of document the rise of community commerce marketing, which is kind of the category we're creating. The show is going to be called The Rise, the Community Commerce Marketing Show, and it's actually, you can go and subscribe to it now. There's a trailer out, but it's anywhere you get your podcast. Just search for The Rise, the Community Commerce Marketing Show. It's obviously brand new because it only has a trailer, so it might be a little hard to find in the search algorithms because the podcast platforms don't know how to do search really, which I don't understand. But whatever. But yeah, we're going to start. We're going to start the first week of January, weekly shows where we interview people about the community commerce and how to drive it for your brand.
Can they go to marketingpodcastnetwork.net and find it?
Okay. Yes, it's also on marketingpodcast.net. That's probably an easier way to. Thanks for reminding me. It's an easier way to find it if you go there and go to our shows list where you'll see Copy Arena and Winfluence and all the others. The Rise is on that grid and you can click through and subscribe there too.
Yes. And so will your shows start rolling out in January or you don't have that nailed down yet?
Yeah, my fingers crossed, knock on wood, and say a Hail Mary or two. I'm hoping we first week of January is our first show.
Nice.
As expected with the holidays, a lot of the Scipio folks have taken time with their families, which they should. So I'm just waiting on a couple of other of my colleagues to cross some T's and dot some I's on some things, but we should go live the first week of January with our first show.
Very cool. Very cool. So any other books in the works? I think you do have another like nonfiction book.
No, nothing right now. I'm really focused on Scipio and on the Marketing Podcast Network, and certainly Winfluence, which kind of ties into both of those.
Yeah.
Not doing a lot of personal projects right now, other than holding on to the last remaining months of being a dad with kids at home. My son's a senior in high school. He's getting ready to go to college next fall. My daughter's a freshman in high school. So I'm just trying to, hold on to the kids while I can, because I've got early onset separation anxiety and empty nest syndrome. So I get all flustered every time something comes up, and it's like, oh, Grant, you're going to be 18 in March. And I just start bawling. Like, oh,
I know, right?
No, you're not allowed to
thought?
Be that. So
who'd have thunk that? But yeah. So Grant will be going off to college. Did he decide on where he's going?
He wants to go to Belmont in Nashville. He wants to be an audio engineer for the music industry, not necessarily for podcasts, although he is helping me produce a couple of podcasts. So he's doing some work to get some resume material. But he wants to go to Belmont and as you know, as of right now, it looks like we are going to be able to make it happen financially. It's not the cheapest school in the world, but so far, so good. We're going to
Awesome.
have to wait on their financial aid offer and all that good stuff. But
Yeah.
we've got some decisions to make, but that's his number one choice for sure.
Nashville. That's close to where you are, isn't it?
Yeah, about 3 hours away. So he can
Okay,
still
that's
come home
good.
on the weekends. We can jump down to see him. It's
That's
not,
good.
it's far enough that he's in a different place, but not so far we can't be there to help him if we need to.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's a big compensation when you have that transition to make, having them not 9 hours away, not even
Yeah.
5, but
Yeah,
so
no
there's
doubt.
that.
Well, and if he's
Parenting is
too close,
hard.
then he'll live at home, and I'm not sure if I'd like that. So
Yes, you would. Be quiet.
I would, but I want him to experience college and learn to be on his own. I tell you, one thing's going to be a big challenge for him is getting his ass out of bed for class, because
Right.
he needs help getting up now. So we'll see how we can condition him this summer to figure that out on his own.
Have 95 alarms set. Go ahead and have them set before he leaves home.
He did get an alarm. He did get a digital alarm clock for Christmas, so I'm hoping that'll help things. Who knows?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and I am very excited about Scipio. Okay, give me the name of the one that is the what?
So Scipio.ai is the website. And so if you want to check out the Vibe Check is the name of the old, it's now called Community Generative AI. CGI is what we call it. But if you go to Scipio.ai/Vibe Check, that will get you a 7-day free trial, and you can go from there.
Okay. Awesome. And marketingpodcast.net is where they can find the array of badass shows that we have going on.
We do. Copy Arena is there, Winfluence is there, The Rise is there, a bunch of others. So go check it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of great shows out there. But I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for jumping on with me today. And you have been the first to be tortured, and in a long line of what I hope to be a long line of guests that will come soon to the Copy Arena. So thank you very much. It's been an honor.
Absolutely my pleasure. I'll come back anytime.
Thank you so much. That's it for this week's episode of Copy Arena, the podcast. Thanks so much for hanging with me. If you found anything useful in this episode, I would love it for you to subscribe where you find your favorite podcast, and feel free to share it with someone you feel may need this information. And if you need copy strategy, you need copy consult, you need copy done for you, reach out to me. Email me at tanya@tanyadakka.com. That's TANIA@TANIADAKKA.com. I can't wait to hear from you, and I'll see you next time.